Hey guys, welcome to Warhammer Stuff. So today we have Chaos Space Marines Iron Warriors versus Chaos Demons Slaanesh. So let's go ahead and check out the armies.
Alright, so for today I am playing 2,000 points, or 1,990 points, of Slaanesh Deamons. And starting off, I have my Warlord, which is a Keeper of Secrets, giving Smite, the Choir, Pavane of Slaanesh. He has, so a Warlord trait, Fatal Caress, and he has the Shining Aegis. It's just something that can be given to these guys. So his saves are 4-up and 4-up in melee and in close combat. So, yeah. And then I have my other Keeper of Secrets here, who this one is Delightful Agonies, Phantasmagoria, basically lots of melee stuff. And he has a Mark of Excess, which we'll give him +1 attack, and every time he kills a character, monster, or vehicle, he gets permanently 1 extra attack. And yeah, and also he has Sinister's Hand, which I could have given to my Warlord, but I wanted to give him something else. So with this one, at the end of the fight phase, any enemy models that were destroyed by him, I gain a D3 wounds. So, yeah. And he doesn't have the 4 and 4-up. So my Warlord has the 4-up, 4-up, and the Keeper Secrets has, this one has the heal. And I have the Mask of Slaanesh, because I've never tried her before. I'm going to see what she does. She's basically a pretty decent fighter and can apply buffs and debuffs. So, and Infernal and Rapturous, she's support. She basically can pull out the, whatchamacallit, an apothecary can bring back someone, so she's basically like a demonic apothecary, so she can bring back whole models. So that's going to be pretty good. Then I have my Tormentor on an Exalted Secret Chariot. I gave her a Relic, which is basically the Whip of Agony, which basically is just a stronger ranged attack. So we're going to see how that goes. And she has Hysterical Frenzy, because she's also a Psyker. So, and then we have 4 units of Demonettes. Each and every one of them have Strength 4, and they have 4 attacks each. AP -2. So these guys, basically they just swarm with attacks. Pretty fast too. Then for my Elite's choices, I have 3 units of Fiends, 4 each, because I just couldn't find any more things to do with the points. And then I have in my fast attack 3 Seeker Chariots, just because. I know Slaanesh has a lot more vehicles in their list. And yeah, so we're going to see how this very fast anti-horde vehicle list works.
Alright you guys, so for my 2,000 points, I actually originally was going to play Emperor's Children, but then we both realized we were playing Slaanesh, and I was like, well, I'll try something different. So here I am, Iron Warriors. And so didn't really know what to do with them necessarily. They seem like vehicle kind of people, so that's the way I went. So I have a Chaos Lord who is my Warlord. He has the Relic Siegebreaker Mace, which is pretty cool. And then he has the Warlord trait Architect of Destruction. So basically he can select a core unit or vehicles unit within 6 inches and puts them in what's the Space Marine equivalent of Devastator Doctrine. So it's called Wanton Destruction. So no matter what phase they're in, they can always be in Wanton Destruction. And then obviously he has the Relic, and so he's kind of a buff character that can handle himself kind of okay. And then I have a Warpsmith, because how can you be Iron Hands and not have a Warpsmith? He does technically have a Relic. So I gave him both a Warlord trait, and no, I actually just gave him a Relic, which basically allows him to heal for a full 3 wounds instead of a D3, because whenever I do that, I always roll a 1, and so that's never great. It's never great. I could have swore I actually gave him... Anyway, not important. Anyway, Demon Prince following up, and so this Demon Prince has the Mark of Slaanesh, which I did not realize. But anyway, so he has the Psychic Power, Diabolic Strength. So 1 friendly Legion Infantry or Chaos Spawn model within 12 inches gets +2 Strength and +2 attacks. of that model, and I just realized that that was singular model, so that's not as good as I thought it would be. And then being Slaanesh Psyker, he has Delightful Agonies, which gives a unit of 5 up Feel No Pain. He has the Axe, and he has Wings. And then he doesn't have any relics or anything like that, so he's just kind of standard, if you will. And then I had some extra points, and I was like, you know what, this might be interesting. I've always wondered what good he is. So I actually was able to pick Cypher, because I had a Chaos Lord as my Warlord. He was able to be a he didn't fall into the army structure. He's able to be an outside guy. So I was like, why not? Let's take Cypher. I don't know if he's going to be any good, but I took him because he doesn't actually have any melee. He just has pistols with a lot of shots. So we'll see what happens there. Behind him is 2 squads of cultists, and they just have cultist firearms. They're nothing fancy. Iron Warriors has a thing to protect other units with shooting by basically sacrificing cultists. But then I realized that Slaanesh has no shooting, so now I just have 2 giant squads of cultists. And they both have their squads of 20, except for the one in the back, because I needed 5 points. So I just got rid of a cultist. But they just all have cultist firearms. Then behind them are 2 legionaries. Now, I don't really care much for the legionaries. They don't seem super great, but I need them for cultists. So I was like, well, I'll try 2. So one squad of 5 just has bolt guns. That's it. That's all they got. And then the squad on their left has chain swords. One guy has a heavy chain axe, and then the champion actually has a tainted chain axe. And these both of these squads have the mark. No, actually, the melee one has the mark of Slaanesh. Because I figured I'd try something shooty and then something melee and kind of flush them out a little bit. And that is my troops choices. Moving into elites, I have a squad of 6 Chaos Terminators, and they're just, as is, Combi Bolters and Accursed Weapons, which are essentially power swords. With, I think, an extra attack, actually. Yeah, so, like, chain sword, power sword things. And then to their left are 2 Hell Brutes. Now, they only had 1 model on TTS, so, like, Cypher, for instance, and the melee troop Space Marine, or Chaos Space Marines, they only had specific models, so they're not necessarily true to model. But so this Hellbrute here has 2 Heavy Flamers and 2 Hellbrute Fists, and he is Mark of Tzeentch. So that means that basically he gets to ignore the first chunk of damage, like the first attack with damage that goes through. And then the other Hellbrute also has Mark of Tzeentch, and he has a Hellbrute Fist and a Hellbrute Hammer. So these are just 2 melee Hellbrutes that are angry. Behind them in the fast attack, so that's the elites, is just a squad of 7 warp talons, because I thought they could fly around with the Demon Prince and get that +2 strength, +2 attacks, before I realized in telling you guys that it only works on 1 model. So they're just going to fly around with him buffless. And those are my fast attacks. Then the heavy supports. So I have a squad of Havocs. So it's interesting with the Havocs that they are what they are. You can't really adjust their things. So you have 2 with las cannons, and then 2 with auto cannons, and then the champ has a flamer. And I thought that's kind of weird, but you know, whatever. And then I have a Forge Fiend and a Mauler Fiend. So the Forge Fiend has 2 of the Heavy Hades autocannons, and then I swapped out his jaw things for Ectoplasma Cannon. And then the Mauler Fiend has the Lasher Tendrils and Mauler Fiend Fists, because he's just going to try and punch stuff as well. And that is 2,000 points of Iron Warriors.
And we got mission 1-1, which is recover the relics. So it's a control 1, control 2, control more. Mission Secondaries, we gain 1 more victory point for every enemy unit we destroy, as well as if we control something in our opponent's territory or no man's land, we gain 1. And if we control the opponent's home objective or in their territory, we gain an extra command point, I believe. Yes. Or something like that. Alright, so for secondaries, for demons, it's pretty straightforward. Nourished by Terror. Every time I make an opponent flee, wipe out a unit, I roll 2d6 and beat their leadership. Or every guy that flees by attrition, I gain 1 victory point. Reality Rebels. This is basically a very nice a much easier engage on all fronts, because I can get up to 5 points. I control the quarters, I control the center, so there's 5 places I can control, so long as I have more models in there, and I think I might be able to do that. And Psychic Interrogation. I have a lot of Psychers, and he has enough characters to make it viable. And that is my secondaries.
All right, so I have 3, and one is the Iron Warrior secondary, and the other 2 are the Chaos Space Marine secondary. So the first one is Demolition, and so basically at the pre-battle abilities step, which I think is before setup, my opponent will set up 3 markers, and basically I have to detonate them. And they can be anywhere on the map, just not within 9 inches of each other and within 6 inches of a table edge. And I get 4 victory points for each, and I get 3 additional victory points if that was within 6 inches of my opponent's deployment zone. So if he tries to be really cheeky about it and put them all in his zone, each one would be worth 7 points. Then I have the Long War, which is Chaos Space Marine. And basically, I get a victory point if... Okay, there it is. For each enemy unit that was destroyed within range of an objective marker. And then I get 2 victory points if I control an objective marker that were controlled by my opponent at the start of this turn. And one of my guys is within. So basically, if I kill a unit off an objective and then take one from him, then I get 1 point and 2 points. So potentially a total of 3. And then Rise to Glory is a little more problematic, but essentially I get 2 victory points for every character, monster, or vehicle model that is destroyed in the battle round by a melee attack from a character. Oh, I did not see that. That's a problem. From my army. And if they have a wound characteristic of 10 to 19, I get 1 point, or 2 victory points if they have a wounds characteristic of 20 or more. So his Demon Prince is there. Then, or Keeper Secrets, or more, if it was the enemy Warlord, wounds characters, and then I score a maximum of 5 victory points per battle round from this secondary objective, and so each time a character, monster, or vehicle model is destroyed by a melee attack made by a character, I also have the potential to get a command point if I roll less than the wounds characteristic of the destroyed model on 2d6. So essentially, that was not great. That's not a good one. Okay, well, anyway, so those are my secondaries.
All right, so for a deployment, because so many of my guys are large size, large vehicles and stuff, I really had to focus more on making sure they had lanes that they could cross through. So my Greater Demons went first, getting what distance and positioning they could. Then getting surrounded by bodyguards of fiends, Daemoness were going to places to support for the objectives and such, and the chariots were just being used to fill in the areas wherever I could find.
Yeah, so I would say that I was trying to counter his deployment, but 100% was not. I honestly wasn't super paying attention to it, for better or worse, because I was still trying to figure out what the heck to do with my own deployment. But so because my characters, my Warpsmith, my Lord, are kind of buffs for my vehicles and the heavy supports, I was trying to figure out, okay, which vehicles do I chunk together, which do I keep by which characters, and so my melee vehicles ended up on one side near the Warpsmith because he can heal, because hopefully the shooty ones won't get in combat, and then my Chaos Lord, who's going to help buff kind of the shootier heavy supports, ended up on one side with the shooty, with the Havocs and the Forge Fiend. Really, the others are not shooty at all. So, and then the rest of the deployment was just kind of like balancing, and then putting stuff like the Warp Talons and the Demon Prince with the wings, so the fast-moving guys just kind of in the middle to help kind of respond, because I know Slaanesh is speedy and the worst. So, hopefully I was trying to counter a little bit, but we will see. I don't know really if there's much you can counter with Slaanesh just because of how fast they are, and I'm pretty sure they get first turn charges or something like that, so we'll see.
Alright, so who should go first, who should go second? I believe that if I go first, my entire army, apart from what needs to be in the back, will be over here by the end of the turn.
Yeah.
So, if you go first, I will get...
I don't know if I'll actually move if I go first.
If you go first, you can touch the objectives with your toes, but even then, I can still hit you.
Yeah.
And so, it's...
Yeah.
So, if I go first, I can't get any first turn charges, because the way I set up. Well...
Also, you can't advance and charge, correct?
As far as I can tell, yeah, I can't.
Okay. So then, if you go first, that's probably better for me, because then everything that you have will essentially be in shooting range, and then I'll get to kind of pick and choose targets, because I can't imagine... I mean, you might hold back, I don't know. I don't know what kind of a waiting game that would turn into, though.
Well, no, so strategically, for this army, I have to run forward. I have to hit you first, and I have to hit you hard. So, the thing I'm overall thinking is that if I go first, I will take half the board, and, I will run to cover in the midway. And then, in the next turn, my whole army will crash into you. But if I go second... some of my guys may get picked off, and then I'll have some targets to hit, and then I'll expand forward from there. And that's pretty much what I think. Alright. Alright then.
Yeah, I think I need to go second for the movement thing. Even though you'll get to pick essentially what's in the front, and more than likely what's going to end up getting shot. At the same time, if I go first and I move for whatever reason, or try and touch something, chances are that means that'll be a first turn charge, just based off how fast you are. Now, are you guys... Well, I don't know if you guys are affected by terrain, so for instance, these vents in the middle would probably be problematic for your movement.
If I recall my Warp Storm stuff, I think I can ignore it.
For your whole army, or just specific units? Because that's an important a very important distinction.
Yes, it's something that's almost guaranteed. All my units can ignore any and all modifiers to my move, advance, and charge rolls at 2 warp charge points, and I get 8 dice, and every 4 up becomes 1. So I will ignore this. This won't bug me.
Okay. Yeah. So that's unfortunate. But yeah. So that if I go first, I might rearrange a little bit. And I might have some things poke out, like my melee stuff. I might move them just because it doesn't matter a whole bunch to me, I think.
Yeah.
Because either way, they're going to end up in combat. And then, being Slaanesh, you have always strike first. So no matter what, it's going to be a trade-off, even if I charge. But it would give my shooting guys more of a chance. So I don't know. I don't know how much it matters. It may not matter at all. This might be a quick battle.
Alright, then let's see if we're true. Let's see. 5.
Got a 2. So you go first.
Alright, Slaanesh, turn 1. Alright, for pre-game. So basically his secondary was that I have to place these 3 objectives around, and he has to go get to them, and they'll be worth more if they can't be within 6 inches of a table edge, they can't be within 9 inches of each other, and if they're within 6 inches of my deployment zone or my deployment zone, they are worth much more, like 7 points if he can get to them and do his action on them. Now here's the thing. So what I was thinking is, I'll place the number 1 it's next to the objective, which I'll have, so he has to push up, and it's next to the vent, so it's going to slow him down, and I'll have cover behind it if he tries to shoot and clear that way off. I did the same thing with number 3. That's what I was thinking. And number 2, I put it into a spot that I believe I will have will be the center of one of my larger pushes. So if he reaches that objective, he's probably won already by slaughtering everything. And so that's what I figure going into this. Alright, so movement phase. Well, actually, not even command phase. I only have one guy who can do something in the command phase, and it's not now. So here was my 900 IQ plan. Run everyone forward, and so a lot of my guys are going to die. But if I only spend one turn running across, then that's good. If the next turn I can just get in there and slaughter everything, that's probably the best I can do. So my plan is to swarm the board with targets for him to shoot, and hopefully he will whiff. So
that is what I'm known for.
900 IQ play. Alright, I completely forgot in my movement phase about my secondaries, so I could have had a lot more points right now. So Reality Rebels, I get 2 points. The thing is, I didn't put a guy within 6 inches of the center. I have guys in the center, but they're poking out, so I did not get the 3rd point from there. Psychic Interrogation, I ran literally everyone, so I totally forgot about doing that. So, well, that's a horrible mistake. I could have had probably 18 points by now or something. Well, alright, we'll see how that goes.
Alright, you guys, so for movement, basically, for better or worse, everything moved forward. Thinking about it now, it's probably going to be for the worst. I don't know why I did that. Oh, I do, kind of, but anyway, it's not important. Kind of is. Not, anyway. So, the only things that didn't really move forward was my Forge Fiend. Literally, he just moved to the side a little bit, so that way he can just peek around the corner and see all those fiends. I'm hoping for the best there. And then my cultists in the back, technically they move forward, but they're really just sitting on the objective. It's just because they have 24-inch range on their guns that are terrible. So I figured if they can at least get a chance to shoot at something, might as well take that chance. And that's really it. Everything else moved forward. Combat stuff, shooty stuff, just to get on some objectives. Alright, you guys, so for my Demon Prince, there's only a couple of things he can do. So, for instance, his Slaanesh native spell can only go on other Slaanesh units, and the only other one that's there is the Chaos Space Marines. They're the only ones with a mark of Slaanesh. So he gave Diabolic Strength to the Warp Talon champion, giving him +2 strength and +2 attacks. Then he tried to Dispel with his Keeper of Secrets, the blue one, and he rolled a 5. So I rolled a 7, he rolled a 5, so it went off. And so now I just have an extra buff, Warp Talon champion. Alright, you guys, so in my shooting phase, I started with the Forge Fiend, who shot at his fiends. I killed one and I did an additional 3 damage, so a total of 7 damage. Then my Havocs shot at his Keeper of Secrets, and it looks like they did nothing, actually. I think he saved everything.
You did 2 damage.
I did 2 damage? Okay, because then my Terminators actually shot and did the other, 5 damage?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
5 damage.
Because they had a lot of shots. Because they were rapid fire range and everything. Then my red Chaos Cultist on my main base shot at his fiends, and they did nothing, actually.
Because I saved them all.
Oh, yeah. And then the Warp Smith shot at his fiends as well. He also did nothing, but that was more like poor rolling on my part. I think there was only one save he had to do, which he made. And then my green Chaos Cultist actually shot at his Tormentor on Exalted Seeker Chariot. And I used the stratagem Tank Destroyer, so 6s to hit, auto wounded. It only works on vehicles, so his chariots are really the only vehicles there. And so with that, I was able to do a total of 2 wounds. Because
I rolled a ton of 4-ups.
Yeah, and then Cypher took some pot shots at the Keeper of Secrets. One of his plasma pistol shots went through and did 2 damage, and then that was pretty much it. And that was my shooting phase. Alright, you guys, so, 4 charges. My Demon Prince charged his Keeper of Secrets. He got in, he got a 7. And then my Warp Talons charged the Keeper of Secrets. Now, they rolled a 5, so which it was enough, but, well, they also charged his Tormentor. But I wanted a little more mobility, so I paid a command point to re-roll it, hoping they didn't fail. They didn't. They rolled a 7, and so I was able to get my units in. And then, yeah, so that was it for them. Then my Chaos Space Marines charged his Tormentor on Exalted Secret Chariot, Torment Bringer. Anyway, they got in, they rolled an 8, so they did fine, and then my Mauler Fiend charged his regular Fiends, and that was my charge phase. Alright, you guys, so for combat phase, I started with my Warp Talons that swung on his Keeper of Secrets. So they did like 5 damage. They took him down from a 13 to 8, which was a first step bracket. Then he swung back on my Demon Prince, doing 6 damage total. I failed one save that would have gotten him killed, so I had to command point it, and I was able to keep him alive. So I rolled that save because he had a 5-up invuln. And then I swung with my Mauler Fiend on his Fiends, and so his actual Mauler Fiend fist rolled really bad on the hits, and so only one went through, but obviously it killed the Fiend. And then the Lasher Tendrils actually killed another Fiend, because those just went through. Then he swung back with his Tormentor on my Marines. He killed 2 because it was 4 damage, so 2 wounds went through. And then I swung back, and I did 2 damage, I think, or 4 damage. I'm not 100% sure, but he's down to 4 wounds now, so he lost life somewhere. And then my Demon Prince, then he swung back with his Fiends. He failed against the Mauler Fiend. Something went through, but I saved it on a 4. And then the Demon Prince swung back on his Keeper of Secrets, and only one of his attacks went through, doing 3 damage. And that was the combat phase. Alright, you guys, so for my secondaries, I have nothing. So Recover the Relics, I didn't kill any of his units. Demolition, I obviously didn't get to any of those. Long War, I didn't take any objectives from him or kill anything on an objective. And then Rise to Glory, none of my characters killed a character, monster, or vehicle. So I have a whole bunch of 0 for this turn.
Alright, so for movement phase, I basically was running up supports for the front line. So, in the command phase, my Infernal Rapturous brought back one of the Fiends because they're a core and they're within 6 inches. So the red squad got back up to 1. Then after that, my green Fiends moved up north in a single file line to avoid that thing. I also only got 1 on my Warp Storm effect, which is terrible. And then, apart from that, my Mask of Slaanesh moved up to go wherever. My orange Secret Chariot ran, was able to move 18 inches up, going through that bent terrain thing. My green Secret Chariot moved up towards where the Demon Prince is. We'll see what happens. And then the blue squad of Fiends rotated around to get in between all of his units. We'll see what happens. It really depends on the psychic phase. Alright, so for the psychic phase, I started with my general. And so he did Pavane of Slaanesh on the red squad. I'm trying to get them to run or do leadership checks in order to get points. And so it went off, and I did a total of 6 mortal wounds to them. Then Keeper of Secrets, that general did his Cacophonic Choir on the green squad of Chaos Cultists. I have to do it on the nearest enemy. And I roll 3d6 and see if it's better than his leadership. And because his leadership is -1 to your demons, I killed 6 of them in total. I rolled an 11. His leadership was brought down to 5. Then my Tormentor on Exalted cast Psychic Interrogation on his Demon Prince and got it off, so I got a point from that. Then my Keeper of Secrets on the bottom cast Phantasmagoria on the Warp Talons, and on a 7 I failed it. I re-rolled it with a d6, or with a command point. I made it off, and basically I roll 6 dice, and for every 5 up, they take a mortal wound. That, I only did 1 mortal wound, so they're pretty good right now. And then I used Smite on the Demon Prince with wings, and he dispelled it after I got it off on just a 5. And that was my psychic phase. Alright, so for the charge phase, essentially what happened was the Fiends up top charged the Chaos Cultist, made it in. The Mask of Slaanesh charged the Warp Talons, made it in. The Green Secret Chariot charged his Demon Prince, made it in. The Fiends, Blue Fiends, charged the Warp Talons from behind, made it in. And my Keeper of Secrets General charged the Mauler Fiend and made it in. Alright, so for the fight phase, first was charges. So first, I knew he could interrupt, and apparently he had always fight first as well, so he could interrupt with those guys. So I chose the Fiends to go first, and they swung on the Warp Talons because I wanted to save my Keeper's Secret, so I had to focus on killing them first. And so they swung, and they did so many wounds, they killed all of them except for like 2, and then their Malefic Tails swung in and finished off all but 1. Then after that, he interrupted with his Demon Prince and swung on my Keeper Secrets and successfully did 3 wounds to him, bringing my Keeper Secrets down to 2. Then, after that, my Mask of Slaanesh piled in and finished off the last of his Warp Talons. Then my Secret Chariot swung on his Demon Prince and did 2 wounds or so, bringing him down to 1. Then I moved up top. No, he had his Aspiring Champion and his Chaos Warrior swing on my Torment Bringer on Exalted Secret Chariot, my Red Chariot, and he brought it down to 1 wound, and he just barely survived. And my Green Fiends swung on his Cultist and wiped out almost the entire squad except for 6 guys. Then I had my Keeper of Secrets swing on the Mauler Fiend, and he killed it, and then my opponent spent a point to re-roll for his vulnerable saves, and he survived just barely. Then my Malefic attacks went through. He survived that too because he kept rolling 5s at the end for his invulnerable saves. Then after all of that, my guys swung back, or the other guy swung. So my Torment Bringer on the Red Chariot in the middle swung, killed 1 guy because he's heavily bracketed, hitting on 4s and lower attacks. Then my Bliss Bringers, or my Fiends, my Red Fiend swung on the Mauler Fiend, did 2 wounds to it. Then my Keeper of Secrets swung and finished off the Demon Prince, permanently giving him +1 extra attack because of his Insatiable Onslaught ability I gave him. Yes, and that was the fight phase.
Alright, you guys, so for the morale phase, my red squad failed, unsurprising. And then 3 other guys ran, so I lost a total of 4 guys from that. And then my green squad rolled a 1. They decided that they didn't care that they just lost 14 guys. They wanted to keep fighting, so here they are. And that was the morale phase.
Alright, so, points-wise, I controlled 1, I controlled 2. I did not control more. I wiped out 2 units, so that's Recover the Relics for 2 points there. Nourished by Terror. Total of, 4 points from that 1 squad that fled and had guys flee from attrition. 4 points. And then I killed the Warp Talon squad. I rolled for it. You're supposed to roll as soon as before the last unit is removed. It didn't work because I forgot it then, because I'm used to doing the secondaries at the very end. And essentially, the Warp Talons I rolled a 5 for, so that didn't affect them. The Demon Prince I rolled a 10 for, and I have to beat his leadership. However, because it happens before they're removed, he would be under the effects of my demon rules, and he would be leadership 9 for being within 6 inches of demons, and so I got an extra point from that. So I'm at 5 points for Nourished by Terror. Reality Rebels. I have a model wholly within the center of the battlefield, and I have 2 table quarters with more models than my opponent. So I'm now up to 5. And I got 1 Psychic Interrogation off. And that is my point. So far it's looking really good in my favor, but that's only been like a third of his army fought.
Alright, you guys, so essentially for this, what I am doing is a couple of things. So on the bottom side of the screen, my Terminators move forward, kind of create a little bit of a wall, but also just better positioning, because no matter what, if anything lives over there, it can get into combat, so might as well accept that fact. Then my Forge Fiend and my Havocs move up as well, and my Chaos Lord as well, so they're just kind of helping create a wall that he can't really get around, because all of his stuff is too big to go through walls except his mask, which is fine. whatever. But anyway, so they move forward just to kind of create a wall there. Then on the top of it, my Hellbrutes move forward, as did Cypher. So Cypher's touching the wall. So my theory is because he's touching the wall, he can actually shoot out of it. And so hopefully I'm going to have him aim at that chariot over there. Then my Chaos Marines move forward, as did my Warpsmith, to try and see if I can pull off any of those, what's it called? Hero melee kills. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if I'll even actually charge him into anything, but we'll see. And then that was actually it for movement. Oh, at the end, the Mauler Fiend healed because he's a demon engine for 1 point, and then the Warpsmith gave him an additional 3 health back. And then I used the stratagem, Blasphemous Machines, so he counts as he is operating in his top bracket, even though he's only 2 wounds away from that bracket, but it'll be hopefully good. And all right, you guys, so for this shooting phase, I had my Terminator shoot at his Keeper of Secrets, and they brought him down to 3 wounds, so only 2 went through, which was unfortunate. I was hoping they were going to do the full 5. But that was not the case. So what I did then was I had my Chaos Lord shoot his pistol, which was a single damage, sure, but still. And so he didn't do anything. I think he failed to wound. So what I did was I had my Forge Fiend split fire. So I had his Hades autocannons go into his Fiends, and then his Ectoplasmic cannon go into his Demon Prince with the 3 wounds left. So the Hades autocannon shot his Fiends, and it actually killed them, I think, with an extra 2 wounds left, because the Lord gave him the Wanton Destruction. So he had some exploding 6s, so that gave him enough shots and enough damage to kill off the Fiends. And then the cannon on the hit rolled a 6, so I had 2 shots actually damaged go through, because I only rolled a 3, but 2 of them missed, but the one that went through was a 6. So then 2 actually went through, and he failed both of those saves on his Demon Prince. So his Demon Prince died, because if only 1 had gone through, he actually probably could have saved it using a point. So that was pretty clutch. Then the Havoc shot at the Seeker Chariot, and both of the las cannons missed, and the auto cannons did almost nothing, and the Flamer actually didn't do anything either. So they kind of sucked. But then I went over, and Cypher shot at the chariot at the top. He did 3 damage, so 1 bolt pistol, 1 plasma pistol shot, and then that was actually all the shooting there, because I forgot to have my green Chaos Cultists leave combat with the Fiends. Otherwise, I would have just had a bunch of shots go into them, but that is neither here nor there. And that was combat. Oh, I tried to get my Marines in the middle to shoot his Tormentor, but they all missed. And I think I'd already spent a command point somewhere on a reroll, so I let that go, and they'll just beat it out of him in combat. So for charges, I started at the bottom, so my Chaos Lord charged into his Seeker Chariot, as did my Terminators. They all got in. And then up towards the top, my Hellbrute charged his Fiends, as did my Warpsmith. Now, my other Hellbrute rolled just enough to get to his Seeker Chariot, but as we found out, there's actually not enough room for him to fit between the edge of the board and that building. So, I didn't take that into consideration when I was moving him that way, because I just assumed that he would fit, but he did not. So, same with his chariot, though. Now, his chariot, we know for a fact, can't fit. Well, I guess actually his base is much larger, so I guess that was never actually a question there. But so now I gotta walk him all the way around. And yeah, so that was unfortunate, but whatever. So yeah, so that was my charges. Alright, you guys, so for the fight phase, there's actually quite a bit that happened.
We accidentally forgot to get the footage, so
yes,
issue with that.
So that was unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is. So what had happened was he had enough points for an interrupt, so I swung where it mattered. So I swung with my Forge Fiend, Mauler Fiend, into his Demon Prince. So he had 18 wounds, and so with his, his Mauler Fiend fists, 3 of them went through, and he failed all of the saves, and it's D3 plus 3 damage. So I ended up doing 17 damage with his fists, and he only had 1 wound left, and so I got him on the Lasher Tendril. Only 1 went through, and he failed to save. And he used a reroll on it, I think.
Yes.
And still failed, and so he was actually able to take out the Demon Prince in one go.
Greater Demon, yeah.
And yeah, so that was extremely unexpected. And then since he used his interrupt point, or no, then he used his interrupt points on
the Exalted
his
Chariot in the center.
That's right, yep. He was able to actually do nothing. Some wounds went through, but I saved them.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yes. And so with his points used, so I started from the top down. My Hellbrute swung, and he killed 2 fiends.
Mm-hmm.
Then my cultist swung, and they actually did like 2 damage to a fiend. So that was something.
Yeah.
And then the Warp Smith swung, and he basically finished off the other guy. So that was kind of pathetic. But anyway. And then my Marines, my Chaos Marines swung and did the final wound on that chariot. Now, it was actually really pathetic because the first 2 guys that swung missed everything. And then the champion swung and only 1 went through. And it was literally just enough damage to kill it. Like, it was really pathetic. And then my Chaos Lord swung on his Seeker Chariot, and he did like one or 2 wounds went through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 2 wounds.
So I did
through.
like 4 damage. Yeah, that's right. And then my Terminator swung, and he rolled 8 saves, and so I did 1 damage with my
8
Terminators,
5-ups. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was what it was. He lost the Demon Prince to ridiculous rolls as well, so you can't be mad. And then he swung back.
Which actually
and I
was
don't know
pretty
actually
decent.
what order you did that in. You
The
probably
green,
went top down too.
the green fiend up top killed 3 cultists, and then the fiends, the red fiends, swung and killed the Mauler fiend in its entirety with their tails, the final attacks. The Seeker Chariot swung on the guys right here, killed 1 guy. Then the Seeker Chariot on the bottom swung, did nothing. And that was the fight phase. Sorry we couldn't capture it. Mm-hmm. Bye. Alright, so for morale phase, the green fiends are the only ones who really have to take a morale test, so they roll for it, they make it. On a 6 they would have failed. And then his Chaos Cultist rolled another 1. That squad keeps rolling once for its morale phase. It's ridiculous.
Alright, you guys, so for points, I had Control 1, Control 2, so I have 8 points on primaries. Recover the relics, I was able to wipe out at least 3 units, but I think it caps at 3 points. Yeah, maximum of 3 victory points. Demolition, haven't been able to do, because now there's just now gaps in his lines. Long War, his fiends that I shot up were on the objective, so I actually got 1 point there, but because I didn't take the objective from him, I only got literally 1 point. And then Rise to Glory, I don't think I'm honestly going to get any points from this, because a character has to kill character, vehicle, or monster in melee, and I think that's going to be a big old 0 here. And so yeah, so not great on points, but I think there were some very important things that happened this round, and we'll see how the rest of the game goes.
Alright, so command phase, Infernal and Rapturous brings back another fiend because they're within 6 inches. Then movement phase, the fiends move onto his back objective. Then everything else moves up. Daemonites basically everywhere shift around. My Infernal and Rapturous runs back to the home objective and basically swaps out with the Daemonites. The pink Daemonites move forward. My Seeker Chariot moves forward to... my teal one moves forward to engage Warpsmith around there. My green Daemonites move to get rid of those aspiring whatevers, or those guys there, champions. Because apparently nothing else can work. That was my movement phase. Alright, so for the charge phase, the fiends charge the red cultists, and they make it in. The Seeker Chariot teal one charges his Warpsmith up top, makes it. My Daemonettes charge his aspiring, or his guys in the middle. Oh, I forgot to mention, his Warpsmith overwatched the Seeker Chariot, fired his Flamer, got 4 shots off, did 1 wound, I saved it. He fired his Plasma Pistol, missed. Fired his Melta Pistol, missed. And then moving on, my mask finally charged the Havocs, and we'll see what happens there. Alright, so for the fight phase, first up, the mask swings on the Havocs, kills one. Then apparently his Slaanesh squad has always fight first, so they swing next. They swing on my Demonettes, and I save all of them. There's like 4 saves, I save all of them. Then my Fiends swing on his unit of cultists on his home base objective, and I wipe them out. Then the Daemonettes swing on the guys who are there, and they wipe them out entirely. Barely, though, but it does happen. He makes so many saves. And then after that, my Chariot swings on the Warpsmith, and so he actually did 2 mortal wounds to him on the charge, and then he did 1 wound to him outside of that. And then after that, that was it for the charges. It was some back and forth. He, with his Chaos Lord, killed my, my Chariot on the bottom. Then up top, my Fiend swung on his cultists, killed one of them, and then he proceeded to kill me with his Hellbrute. And then his Warpsmith swung and killed my Chariot up top. And then he swung back with his Havocs, all surrounding the mask, and they did 1 wound to them. Despite, it was also because with the mask, at the start of the fight phase, I can select an enemy unit to base contact with and apply buff to a nearby unit of mine or to debuffs, and I basically made him plus having a -1 to wound. And so because of that, she basically survived. And that was the fight phase. Alright, so for points, I did control 1, control 2. And now for recover relics, I killed the cultist in his home base and the squad of Astartes in the center of the board. Nourished by Terror, I got some off for killing the guys, and that's pretty much it, just 1 point from there. Reality Rebels, I have the center, and I have my 2 home quarters. I have no more Psychers, so Psychic Interrogation is stuck. And that is it.
Alright, you guys, so for movement, my Havocs left combat. Obviously, that is not the place for them. And then my Forge Fiend actually started moving back towards my home objective. The Terminators moved forward towards my secondary objective marker, so moving into the Great. The Chaos Lord actually fell back. I assume the Mask of Slaanesh is a character, so I'm going to try and beat her up in combat and at least get 2 points. Like, it's probably the last chance I have for points on that secondary, so... Or I guess technically as 1 character all the way at the back, but... Anyway. And then my Hellbrute, the one closer to the middle, move towards the middle to try and hit his Secret Chariot. The other Hellbrute, who's just stuck, ran for it, but he rolled a 1 because he's a lazy piece of poop. And he just popped out by the back. The cultists moved forward a little bit. I don't want them to get too close to those Demonettes. And then the Marines just step forward because they're not as afraid. And then Cypher moved forward to shoot other things. And that was really it for my movement phase. All right, you guys. So for my shooting phase, there's actually quite a bit that went down. I started from the bottom. So my Forge Fiend shot at his Fiends. He killed 2 of them off with all of his shots. Then my Chaos Lord shot at his Mask of Slaanesh. Failed. Whether he saved it or I just rolled badly with his pistol, which seems more likely. Nothing happened there. Havocs obviously couldn't shoot. My Terminators actually cleared off his Demonette squad. I think I had 20 wounds go through. And so they died. And then my Hellbrute towards the middle shot at his Chariot. I think it actually did 6 damage. Like he had really bad rolls on his saves for that one. It actually would have been 8, but he saved 1. So, but then my Warpsmith shot at him with the Melted Pistol, and he actually rolled a 6 to hit. So 2 Melted Pistol shots ended up going through, and it died. And then he shot his Flamer and Plasma Pistol at the Demonettes. I think he killed 1, maybe 2. Then the Chaos Space Marines and the Chaos Cultists and Cypher all shot at them, whittling them down from a squad of 10 to a squad of 2. And that was the shooting phase. Alright, you guys, so for charges, my Chaos Lord charged his Mask of Slaanesh and got in. Then my Warpsmith tried to charge his Demonettes and he failed. He needed a 7. He rolled a 5, I think. And then, which would normally work, but he's sitting in terrain, so it took off 2 inches, didn't work. Then Cypher charged and he got in with a 6. And then, just to make sure the mask died, it only has 3 wounds, but you know, whatever. My Forge Fiend charged in, and we're gonna hope for the best there. And that was my charge phase. Alright, you guys, so in the fight phase, Chaos Lord swung and killed his Mask of Slaanesh. And then we kind of talked back and forth whether he would interrupt. He decided not to, so Cypher swung. He doesn't have any melee weapons, so it's literally he just punched them to death. And so he killed the last 2 Demonettes, just barely. I think only 3 wounds went through or something like that. But yes, and then that was the fight phase. Alright, you guys, so for points this round, I got 2 primaries for Control 1, Control 2. I got 3 points for Recover the Relics because I killed 3 units, 2 Daemonette squads and the Mask. Oh, and the Chariot, but it's not relevant. Demolition I still have not been able to do, but now most of the board is cleared, so I can actually go and do that now. Long War I got 3 points for, so I took an objective from him and killed a unit that was on it. And then Rise to Glory, my Chaos Lord killed the Mask of Slaanesh in combat, giving me 2 points, and that is probably the only points I will get for this secondary the rest of the game. And that was my turn in points.
Alright, so it's at the end of the points. You'll notice that the points are much higher. Basically what we did was we did a back and forth with Theory Hammer, and we realized that the Iron Wars are just barely going to win with what is possible. Taking all the points that I have earned and trying to stop him, he's going to be guaranteed all the things in the 4th round. I'll probably be able to get the 8s on the other rounds. And the way things are going, it looks like he is going to just barely eke over what I have. And so we decided to call it there because it's like 80% chance of it going to him, basically. And so it's like, at most, it's these huge, long, drawn-out things just to find out if 1 point may or may not go to him. And it's unlikely I'll be able to do anything about it. And so we decided to call it there because of this. Alright, so we called the game. It's unlikely the demons can win. So MVP, LVP. So for the demons, LVP. It's actually kind of contested because a lot of stuff didn't do too well, but that's for weird reasons. But the Tormentor basically didn't really kill anyone. I mean, technically, they brought me 3 victory points, but the other greater demons could have done that. So this demon just basically, he barely killed anything. He got countercharged pretty hard. And yeah, really wasn't able to do much, so he very underperformed. However, MVPs is not particularly one Seeker, but all the Seekers in general. They're very tough. They killed a lot of enemies. They wiped out the Warp Talons. They slaughtered a lot of cultists. They cleared out a back objective. These guys were doing the work. Yeah, the cultists. But they just zoomed over the board. They killed a lot. They were very strategically valuable. These guys did the most work. I mean, it is not a very high spectrum. The bottom is not that low, and the high is not that high. But these guys did really good for that. All right, so you.
So for me, I think so usually in a list there's something I really dislike, and with one very specific exception, I actually liked everything in my list. So my MVP is the Mauler Fiend, because he literally just beat to death Keeper of Secrets. Like, he punched her torso off and then broke her neck with one of his Lasher tendrils. Like, he did a ridiculous amount of damage in one fight. Granted, he rolled bad on his saves, but still, well, he just punched her to death. And so that was crazy impressive. And I think that was actually a huge deal for the game. Because even still, I only just barely won. So the Mauler Fiend, he takes MVP 100%. I was a little worried because he's pretty limited with his stuff. He's literally just melee, and he only has 12 wounds, so it's deceptively easy to go down. But he just barely survived that first round with the Keeper of Secrets, and then with a Stratagem and the Warp Smith nearby, he was able to really pull it out. And then, yeah, that was just super impressive. LVP, Demon Prince. Now, when I played the Demon Guard or Death Guard, I used Demon Princes, hated them. When I played the Thousand Suns, Demon Princes, hated them. I don't know why I thought it would be any different with the Chaos Space Marines, but I hated it. And it's probably mostly because I mismatched them. They are not good against tough things. They need to fight weaklings. But of course I send it into a Keeper of Secrets, and you know, it was terrible. I also actually didn't even look at the model when I picked, like, weird stuff on it. Anyway, but so LVP, I would say Demon Prince. Even the Warp Talons did relatively well. Like, they got bamboozled, so there's not much you can do about that. But the Demon Prince he just took it to the face, and that was it. But the rest of my army, I really like the Terminators. I thought they were going to be kind of bad with the Combi Bolters and Accursed Weapons because, 0 AP. But just the number of shots they had was actually really good. The Havocs I actually kind of enjoyed. Now, they rolled pretty bad, but it's not really their fault. But they have stabilization things, so they don't get penalized for moving, which is a huge plus. The Forge Fiend was tremendous. Even the Hellbrutes, they didn't get much of a chance to do anything because I started moving them down a path that they actually couldn't get out of. So they had to kind of reverse course. But even the Cultists, I mean, they're really just placeholders, but there were so many of them, it was kind of annoying for him to take off. Like, if I had taken squads of 10, they would have evaporated on like the first turn or the second turn, I guess, when he actually got into combat with them. So the squad of 20 actually kept them. Like, that's really the only thing that kept them
You
alive.
can't really say that that's a consistent thing because you rolled 4 1s for their morale tests every single time. So they would have disintegrated.
True, but still, they did stick around because of the squad size. And they were nice for like little objective stuff, and they did a couple of wounds with their guns, not much, but. And so I would say, I mean, I was kind of nervous about playing the Iron Warriors because I've never played Chaos. Oh, I guess technically I played the Death Guard and Thousand Suns, but like as a whole, the Chaos Space Marines. So I was kind of nervous about that, but I think it was actually an okay list. And so it was kind of fun, and I enjoyed playing it. It had a nice mix of melee and shooting and vehicles and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think about Slaanesh?
Well, they're very different than Nurgle, but how do they differentiate from Khorne? I haven't played Khorne yet, but what I do notice is that they are very vehicle heavy. They're very cheap cannon foddery, but they're also insanely fast.
They have a lot of attacks too.
Yeah, and so it was more like I played them wrong. I guess my first turn positioning wasn't the best, but like I could have done a few things in a different order, which would have had much better results. It's more like I'd have to play more games. It's like the thing is though the Keeper of Secrets, they all had the ability to heal wounds, but each one had a unique way of doing it, and they were each countered with the thing that they could not heal from. And so essentially they never got a chance to heal. Yeah, inadvertently. If the guy up top, my Warlord, hit like regular squads or smaller squads, he'd be like pretty much immortal. The Mauler Fiend came by was just one very heavily armored thing, and so he wasn't able to heal. And the guy on the bottom, he just had to kill one model and it would heal some, but he just wasn't able to get that chance because he had to fight the Demon Prince, who just lucked out on a lot of saves. If the roles were reversed, it would have been very different. The Demon Prince would have been wiped out by the guy up top because he ignores invulnerable saves, so that would have been wiped out. And then he would have turned on the Warp Talent and just healed back up to full. And up top, he would have just been able to survive, deal more damage. He might have died against the Mauler Fiend, but if the roles were reversed, it'd be a very different game. Who was where? Yeah. So overall, I'll say that, honestly, it falls to the same thing. Big guys, you need at least like 2 or 3 big guys. The characters really didn't do much except for the Infernal Rapturous. They kept bringing back fiends. The Daemonettes are pretty interesting. They don't have any real, like, sit back and hold objective kind of units. It has to be the Daemonettes. And so that while they have a lot of attacks, it's not as good because it's at their strength, AP -2, 1 damage. So...
And their toughness 3, so them sitting out in the open is bad news.
The only thing you could say is that they're 120 points. So...
That's not bad.
Yeah, so it's... You figure out what works well. The Fiends, very good. Very good. Bring lots and lots of Fiends and their fast attacks. And, yeah. Yeah, they're elites, sorry. Fast attacks would be the Chariots. Yeah, but apart from that, they're more... You have to position carefully, and then you want to get those charges off, especially if you have Chariots. So they're a bit more precise than you would expect in their abilities. And their Greater Demons are softer than you would expect, just in general, with 20 wounds each. And, yeah, so...
Sounds like a lot of wounds, though.
It sounds like a lot, but I had to upgrade them to have a 4-up invuln save in melee. So you have to take these things into consideration. So, alright then. So, that was our game. Thank you if you made it to this part of the video. Thank you for watching. I have no idea what we're playing next week. I'm playing more demons, just like I have 3 other factions in the Demon Codex to play. It's ridiculous. But thankfully, they're not like Age of Sigmar that decided to split all the Chaos Demons into their own codexes.
They did do that at one point.
They have done that.
Way back when.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright then. Well, thanks for watching, and bye.